Peace and blessings, YouTube. Again, it's an honor and a privilege to be before you in truth, honesty, righteousness, and power as we continue to have these dialogues to elevate our spirits, our minds, and furthermore. This evening, I would like to discuss pain and pleasure and which one of these two principles will help us to evolve. Because as you know, many of us seek pleasure and we seek very little pain because we think that pain is a negative thing that will bring harm or danger. We sense danger when we think of pain, but ultimately pain is what will lead to growth and elevation spiritually, mentally, and physically. Pleasure will lead to greater comfort and ultimately lead to greater death and self-destruction, because pleasure is really like a hypnosis. It will hypnotize you and leave you weak. It will leave you weak to seek pleasure, because this life is the universe, and the laws set up are filled with painful trials and tribulations that we have to overcome. Even as children in the womb of our mothers, we experience pain. That is a law in the universe for growth and development. You have to experience pain. You have to overcome pain. So is it intelligent for us to seek pleasure over pain? Should we seek pleasure over pain? And what are the circumstances that will determine the pleasure that we seek or the pain that we must overcome? When you look at this society that we live in, which I love to talk about this society because it's filled with so many examples and for us to learn from. When you look at this society, they promote everything of pleasure in relationship to taste buds, in relationship to the low desires, in relationship to the fleshy pleasures. That's all they promote. But then when you look at the reality of the people are sick and destroyed. You would think if pleasure was so good for us, and most people seek pleasure in this society, then you would think people would be in a better condition based on pleasure, if pleasure was really good for us. But it seems as though it has us moving further backward, and it has you more lethargic and less militant and less motivated to seek pleasure. When you accept pain as your reality, then you evolve, you grow, you elevate, and it's levels to the pain as it's levels downward with pleasure. So as you continue to accept pain as your reality, it takes more mental strength, more mental perseverance, more conviction and fortification to overcome pain. So now me accepting pain as my reality, I can put that power and energy that I'm benefiting from by overcoming trials toward my business, toward my spiritual elevation, and put that discipline toward my relationship or toward whatever I want to put it toward, because now I'm empowering myself by accepting pain as my reality. You don't want to accept pain in an unnatural, insane way where you injure yourself or inflict unnecessary pain on yourself that is in a dangerous way. But you don't want to always look for the easy way out. You don't always want to look for what's comfort or if you have nothing to fight for, then you become very easily miserable in this life. Because if you have nothing to fight for, what is life worth living if you're not struggling to overcome? If you're not struggling to master creation, if you're not struggling to master self, struggling to elevate closer towards your creator, what is the point of being alive in this society if you're not struggling to become a god, to become greater? So we need to challenge ourselves. Men and women need to challenge themselves more in overcoming the pleasure and the fleshy lust pleasures, and really understanding that pain is the only way to grow and evolve. Now, it's not as simple as I'm making it seem, because you have to make sure that you're on the right path. You don't want to be on a painful path and in a way where you're not learning from your circumstances and trials. So there is knowledge that we have to apply along with our pain to make sure it's benefiting us, you see, because you're not a threat as long as you're seeking pleasure and wanting to have fun and engage in debauchery. You're not a threat to those who want to keep you subjected. But ultimately, if you seek pain, then that naturally will bring out the warrior spirit and naturally increases your drive and motivation and naturally will increase your consciousness It will naturally increase your ability to critically think as you accept pain as your reality. Because it's a painful reality that we live in this society. It's very painful. You know, when you look at racism, when you look at the evils of injustice, when you look at the society as it is, it's a painful reality. So if I'm seeking pleasure, but I'm surrounded by chaos and pain, that's not balance. So I think that we should accept pain as our reality. And if pleasure comes, then all praise is due to God. But I'm not seeking pleasure. I'm seeking pain, because that is ultimately what this universe is rooted in, for elevation, for evolution. It's painful. You know, even on a physical level, as you're training your body and working out, it's painful to develop and build your body. It's painful to build your spirit, because you have to discipline yourself. You have to have restraint and resistance and discipline. That's all pain, because the nature of your nature does want pleasure. I mean, that's a nature in human beings, to want to feel good, to think good and have pleasure. But the balance is, you know, the reality in which we live. And that's the ultimate test. Are you willing to sacrifice pleasure for pain? Are you willing to sacrifice your desires for the greater desire, which is to elevate towards your creator, which is painful? Pleasure is easy to tap into. Pleasure is easy to get access to. Pleasure is easy to, you know, to get. But if you really want to be successful and really want to evolve, then pain is the way we have to go about. And another example of pain is when you look at the socioeconomic status, when you look at society as it is, the people, the relationship amongst the people, and just all over the world, when you look at the conditions and look at how we think, like look at how the controllers and the gatekeepers think, and then look at how the common people think, then pleasure should not really be on our psyche, because this society and this world it's not time for pleasure. This is the day of war. This war is raging, not just on a physical level, that too, but on a spiritual level and mental level. So, you know, pleasure is natural to want to feel good and think good. That's natural. But the enemy takes the nature of things and makes mischief of the natural things, and turns us against or uses our nature against us, and it destroys us. So, and as an example, most people, like when you see someone who has got strung out on drugs, or have sex addictions, or has these different addictions, it started with an urge for pleasure, but look how the enemy manipulated it, and that person got strung out, and it destroyed their lives when they alcohol, you know, addicted to alcohol or drugs or things like that. That's, you're seeking pleasure. But really what you're seeking, you're not seeking drugs. Your spirit is crying out for elevation, is crying out for greater connection to your creator and to our creator. But what the enemy does, they make it convenient to do drugs, to drink alcohol, to eat bad food and snacking. So that's, we go to that for pleasure. But really what your soul is yearning for is greater elevation. But they make it convenient. And this whole society is like a fortress of devils, or like a fortress of down people, low frequency people. The whole society it's like it's been reversed. They make you think you're moving toward a life when you're really moving toward death. If you don't have the ability to critically think and with a common intelligence, you're not going to understand how the enemy is tricking you, how they're manipulating our thinking with the bad food and the drugs and the society, the education, the economy and all of that. You're not going to see the tricks if you're too busy focused on pleasure and self. We have to actually sacrifice that in order to grow. That's what God is calling us to do. Put down your low desires, put down your fleshy pleasures, put all of that down, because we have to pay attention closely to what's happening. And if you're distracted with dumb stuff like that, with sex and drugs and all of that, that's taking you away from reality. That's taking you away from the reality of what's happening and the condition and your disposition that you have to have in this day and time. So you cannot seek pleasure, because that's not in harmony with today's time. We have to actually accept pain. Pleasure will come, but don't seek it. But we have to actually accept pain as our reality in order to get through this time, because you can see it. And you have to develop mental strength. You have to be mentally strong in this day and time. Not just physically strong. And you're not ever if you're mentally weak, you're not physically strong, because true strength is internal. So we have to develop our mental and spiritual strength, and then let that reverberate throughout us as we move through life and connect with others and share energy and share intelligence, and as we move along. So that's really it. Pain or pleasure? I want you all to comment and let me know what you think. What do you think will be the ultimate elevating force for us in this lifetime? Is it pain or pleasure? What will actually grant us true success, true freedom, true liberation? Is it pain or pleasure? So thank you for listening. It's always an honor, privilege, and pleasure. I like to always challenge us to think greater and on greater levels and on greater heights of intelligence and knowledge, and critically think for us to move forward. Because especially the younger generations coming up, we have to turn this thing around, and it's going to take strong-minded individuals to make that happen. So thank you again, YouTube family. Peace and blessings.